Please greet abahlali. Molweni ninjani emakhaya.
We're back.
Back like we never left. I hope everyone is well. I hope everyone's good. We're out of winter, at least something positive.
Yes, sir.
Some people believe the government of national unity is working. Leon Schreiber's doing great work at Home Affairs. Gayton McKenzie looks like he's everywhere at the same time. The Springboks are doing well. We had some medals at the Olympics. At the Paralympics, we had medals. I don't know. Some people are positive in the country. So there's a lot to be thankful for, but there's also a lot of issues that we constantly have. How have you been?
I'm great. I believe there's one more thing that needs to start taking place before we see real change in our economy, and that's the interest rate. So whenever this show is, it will be post the 19th of September. Today's the 17th of September.
Sure.
So the guys and girls are going to sit 2 days from now and decide our fate, at least for the next quarter.
Yeah.
And according to everyone that I've spoken to, that is really in the middle of high-level conversations, they're saying that today's the day that the Americans sit and decide on their interest rates. So whatever they do will follow. So, I mean, depending on where in the States they're going to sit, we'll probably know late this afternoon what they've decided. And the reason for that, strangely enough, is if they drop 0.5%, then the chances are very good that we drop 0.5%. And if they drop 0.25%, then that's what we're going to drop. And that's somehow to control the exchange rate, according to sources. But what I've seen in our industry and what I've seen with our customers is a rate drop is absolutely necessary. Just to go a little bit deeper into the topic, when we do finance qualifications, we speak internally, so it's internal jargon. If you see a 800 ITC score, you already start spending your commission. So as the app comes in, you are on whatever website that you do your online shopping, and you already spent your commission because this dude has got an 800 ITC score. And we have seen, particularly over the last 2 months, consumers with 800, 850 ITC score being declined. And
declined by institutions for credit products?
Across all institutions.
Okay.
So we apply to all the major banks, which is Absa, Westbank, MFC, that's a division of Nedbank, Vehicle Finance. Then we have Standard Bank, and we have a very strong new role player called Marquise. Marquise Finance is the new underdog. They came in as a disruptor.
Yeah.
The management team used to head up the management team at Westbank, so they broke away and they're being funded by Standard Bank. So if Marquise declines you, that means
you must be really bad.
It's not looking good, and clients with ITC scores of 800 to 850 are being declined. And the reason for that is it's multiple layers of problems. They fall behind on home loans, and they fall behind on existing car payments. So the inclination is to trade down. So I'm paying currently 7.5. I want to get into a car that I can pay 5. The challenge with that is the vehicle that they're paying 7.5 for, they haven't used for 36 months. So you still don't have equity, because that's more or less your break-even point is 36 months. If you drive a vehicle for 36 months,
it's 3 years.
Yeah, you can quite easily trade it in and have a break-even balance, more or less, around 36 months, depending on...
Is this like a little hack, little tip?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Drive your car for 3 years, and then you'll get like a fairish or break-even
point
for trading.
Occurs at 36 months. If you haven't loaded a vehicle on top of this vehicle. So what happens with the load is you come in and you want to get out your car of 7.5. The vehicle is worth, for example, 300. You owe 340. So now creative accounting comes into play. We have to load the 40 plus VAT onto the new vehicle. So that's already R1,000 installment. So realistically speaking, that customer has to come out of that car into a R4,000 a month car plus the loading.
Sure. Of the difference.
Of the difference. And What's happened is clients sort of wait a month or 2 or 3 or 6 too long to come out of that vehicle, and they start falling behind. So 800 plus ITC score, consumers are being declined. I believe that once we get the first reduction in rate, whether it's 0.25 or 0.50, that just gives, South Africa is a very resilient country, and it just gives you that tap on the back, like you'll be okay.
Sure.
You know, things are looking bright. The future looks bright. And I promise you, I've been doing this my entire career, almost 20 years. It's never been needed more than it's needed right now. Never ever. In my career for the last 20 years, we've never needed it more.
My first question was going to be, historically, have you found that we mimic what happens in America? Historically? If you're saying chances are if America goes down, we'll go down.
Yes.
If it doesn't, chances are...
Yes. Yes, we do.
More than any other economy, America's interest rate changes are the ones most influential to ours.
Yes, because ultimately we're protecting our trade industry. And until BRICS starts dominating and there's a new world order, a new currency that we all start trading in, we still trade in dollars.
We're
trading in dollars. Yeah. So if we go according to their guitar and we play our song according to their lead guitar, then we protect the exchange rate, which currently is favorable. But the moment we start doing erratic things like dropping more or not dropping at all, that affects the exchange rate. Now, if you think about it, if you order something for $100,000 container and it comes here, and before you pay for it, depending on how your business is structured, do you pay for it once it lands here? Do you pay for it when it leaves the shipping yard? Whatever that structure is, if the dollar goes from 18 to 20, that's a 10% increase on your cost. And looking at the item's advertised price, can you absorb the 10% without having to increase that price, which then throws you off competitively against a product coming from another part of the world? So I think it's very, very complex. And it's not that we have to do what they say. It's more like we're doing it to protect everybody else.
2 more questions. Number one, have you found that, I know you live and eat and breathe this stuff, have you found that ordinary people, including some of your customers, although some of them might be a bit financially savvy, do they understand these things? ITC scores, which is your credit bureau score. Do they understand interest rates changes? Do they only care about the final number? Because I know before we started, you were speaking about fixed versus variable interest rates on vehicles. And do people understand that? Is it important for them to understand?
So very good question. And I'm like literally very happy you asked it. The typical way a dealership operates is a dealership calls the customer and says, we've got you approved, come in and sign. Sign here, 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 go. That's option 1. Option 2 is, I would like to pay 5,500 Rand maximum per month. Okay, we'll phone you back. Great, sir, we've got you on 5,500 Rand. Come in, sign here, 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 and here. Go, enjoy your car. It's very dangerous to do it that way, because you are walking into the room of an absolute expert that generally is incentivized in a way that you not only don't you understand, it directly affects your pocket long term. Right. So having said that, what I do, because as of 2 months ago, I touch every customer that's approved for finance myself. I'll give you a call and I'll start with your ITC score. So, for example, 690 is the cutoff. We do sometimes get clients approved on below 690. Say, good morning, sir. My name is Bobby Petkov, and I'm calling you to provide you with information. The current cutoff score is around 690. We found ourselves with an approval at 650. Now, we all live lives. Things happen. They've happened to me. They've happened to you. They'll happen to everybody. And sometimes we fall behind with certain things. Now, because I have a printout of your entire credit history, I'm not allowed to advise, but I can counsel. So these 3 things that you fell behind a year ago affected your ITC score. So therefore, from 690, where it started 3 years ago, or 720, it dropped down to 650. However, the bank still feels that there's enough trust to grant you a loan. And here's the structure of the loan. The next question the consumer asks me is, I want to sign on Prime. Because I opened that door. And it's a choice that I make to open the door. Then a part of the conversation needs to be on educating the consumer how the rate is determined by the bank. Now, we've had lots of pushback and kickback as a company because I'm the first guy that came on camera and said, the dealership decides on your interest rate, not the bank, which is true. So how the dealer is incentivized is this way. The higher the rate that I sign you on, the more DIC that I get, dealer incentive commission. And that's
it makes sense for an ordinary person. If we can, because how banks make money is through interest. What banks do is they don't sell money. For people that don't know, it's much more complicated. But for ease, banks rent out money.
That's it.
At interest.
That's it.
And if you are one of the people helping them rent out money at interest, the more interest you make for them, the greater profits, the more commission you make. So for the consumer, we don't understand. I just want that 5,500. You're going to play around in whatever way to try and bump up the interest, or you should, so that you can earn a higher commission so the bank makes more money.
And that's where I feel that long-term, my strategy, long-term, mine, works. Not short-term. Short-term, it's proving not to work. But long-term, I believe wholeheartedly it will work. We don't incentivize our finance team on DIC at all. It's the only dealership in the country. And I'm not bragging. It's like a phenomenon. We had a masterclass session at head office with Stratco Westbank. So the top of the top of the top of the top tier in our industry we presented to. And when I said that, they said, we've never heard it. It's unheard of. I said, yes, because if I incentivize our financial department on dealer incentive commission, the customer has to pay for it. Yeah. I don't want the customer to pay for it. So they, but by the way, they do fine. Anna-Marie, who heads up that department, has multiple homes. She's doing very well. She's not struggling. And all the finance boys and girls in our company are not struggling. And we have the defending champion in mega division for F9 South Africa back to back, working in our company, who we brought up as a cadet.
It's brilliant.
But not at the expense of the consumer, which means the company now makes less per transaction, but I retain you as a customer. So when you come and trade in again, the trade-in opportunity that we have with you is 50%. 50% almost is repeat business that comes in. So we incentivize our team on products, so value-added products, death and disability. So all value-added products, warranty, extensions of warranty. That's where we sacrifice most of our commission as a company to pay the employees.
Sure.
But why I say it's very dangerous to say I want this payment is creative structuring means even if I can get you at 5.1, why should I get you at 5.1? Because you're prepared to pay 5.5. Lift the interest rate, which is like I literally want to throw a solid piece of wood against someone's head when I see that happening. And it happens daily. Lift the interest rate, get you in 5.5, create some sort of a very long-term, very high residual scenario. So the 36 months then become 60 months.
Yeah.
So within 5 years, I can't touch you if I do that. Now, if a customer requests that I present the installment, I had a awesome family yesterday. I'm not going to say the surname, but mom and dad come in very conservative, like very humble. They're buying a cherry Tigo. Son comes in, uniform, like you can see this is a smart young man. Daughter, I offer them cool drink, coffee. Daughter, she's 21. She says, do you have shots? I said, no, no shots. I'm like, Mom, what are we doing here? She says, Uncle Bobby's going to give you a hiding. But present the figure of 6.7, says, Bobby, we can't afford 6.7. Ma'am, where are you and your family going to be comfortable? At 5.5. I said, ma'am, here's how I can structure 5.5. I want you to understand that, point one, you cannot trade this car in 3 years. You have to drive it for. How much do you drive per day? So it's not a lot, about 110, 115 kilometers a day. So the mileage will be within range.
Yeah.
So every action has a
Consequence.
consequence. And the rates being where they are currently, the banks are approving deals on prime plus 2.75, prime plus 3. It's very high. The moment that we feel that little bit of a breather with a reduction, the consumer gets a chance to recover, and now a bond went from X to Y. There's a 800 or 900 rand saving. Your car that you wanted to trade in also saving $300-400 on your installment. It all adds up, and it gives the economy just a chance to recover. Not only when it comes to vehicles. I mean, every industry is feeling it. So I'm in a weird space in my mind currently, because we've been beaten up for the last 2 years as an economy, as a middle class, that it's time for a break. We really need it. So hopefully when this show is, we've received the break.
Do you think your customers understand what you're doing? Do you think they understand the impact of what you're doing? Do you educate them on the fact that we actually forego? Or do you try and push humility instead of being aggressively like, do you know that we actually lose a lot of money in the way we operate? I just need you to know, so that when you go anywhere else, understand that they operate differently.
That's not why I'm doing it. I don't care if they understand. I literally.
But you have to care. Not just for business, for the consumer. It's part of for them to understand.
I don't want to position the conversation that I'm walking on water, or I'm better than anyone else, or my intention is different. My intention is also selfish. We sell cars to make a profit.
Sure.
But my intention is long term, to isolate you and retain you as a customer by doing the right thing.
Do they know that you want them to come back?
Absolutely. I hope so. That's
you hope
thing.
so. Hope is not a strategy. We know this.
I know that doing the right thing right now, long term, is always the right thing. So whether I position it that way and have a 15-minute conversation trying to explain to them that what we're actually doing is trying to walk on water, I avoid that. This is the best thing for you and your family. If you take this option, these are the consequences. So I present you the information, and I give you a logical case where you make the decision, and whatever you go with, I follow. If you tell me, Bobby, I want 5.5, I'll do 5.5. No problem. I can do it. It's possible.
Sure.
But the consequence is this, and this. Yeah. Please stay within these barriers. And please, if you have any questions between now and then, phone me.
A lot of us as consumers lie, hey, by the way. That's the other problem, because if you're working with someone who's ethical, which is normally unheard of, car salesmen, as we know, especially used car salesmen, are trash. But if you're ethical and you're trying to give a person options and explain, and now I'm lying. No, I only drive 60 kilometers a day. No, the plan is, and it's like I'm screwing myself as well, because I won't get the best advice.
So I think on that, I'll just give you a different point of view as well. When we initially meet, and the first interaction is always, what do you want this car to do for you and your family? And if it's a single guy buying a GTI, we know what the intention is. So I know what this car needs to do for him, and hopefully in the very near future he's going to get a family. So,
families.
So when it's a Polo GTI, I ask questions. Brother, tell me about where you stay. What are your expenses? Are you renting? Are you still staying with mom and dad?
Yeah,
I'm staying with mom and dad. Okay, cool. How long do you plan on staying with mom and dad? No, it's lekker by die huis. Free DSTV, baba. Then I'm comfortable putting you in an installment very close to the maximum of what's allowed, which is 30% of your gross income.
Yeah.
Then let's freaking go, because I know you're buying this car to have fun and to attract a certain type of attention. You want to go and meet girls, hopefully to meet their parents most of the time, not whatever. But if
we don't know about that.
Yeah, but if if I ask you what does it need to do for you and your family, and
Yeah.
you tell me I need to take my kids to school, it needs to be economical, I'm working on a tight budget, how long are you going to drive the vehicle? So I think the qualifying question gives me the confidence to go and present you with an option that will suit you based on what you told me.
Yeah.
If you lied and we work out a transaction where you need to drive within 25,000 kilometers of a year, if you take residual, that's a must. If you're a person that drives 40 or 50,000 kilometers a year, and you want to take a car with a 40% residual value, that's not a good move. I'm never ever going to push you into that. I'll tell you that if you take residual and you drive more than 25,000 kilometers a year, your break-even point is not 36 months. It's probably close to 60 months. Will this car last 60 months? The only way we make that happen for you is an extended warranty. So there's a different way to cover that.
Yeah.
So each situation is unique. But if you say to me, I'm driving less than 25,000 Ks, and you pop in after 3 years, and I look at the OTP, your car at 10,000 Ks, and in 3 years it's got 180, and I need to take you out of that car, then
We actually don't think about buying cars as deeply as we probably should as consumers. We probably just look at pockets, a lot of us, and then the best thing we can get for our pocket.
5.5.
I'm asking you a personal opinion, but it's also a business opinion. Our interest rates has gone up a lot lately.
10 times in a row, sir.
And Lisitya Khanyago has become a villain for many people who understand the impact of interest rate hikes, of which they can substantiate it however.
I don't think what they did is actually wrong. I'm not saying that what they did is wrong, because
Do you think the people that are in power, the Reserve Bank governor, the people that do monetary policy, do you think they actually care about building this economy, or they may be serving other agendas that may not be local?
I really honestly, and as much as it hurts me to say this, I really, because for every action there's a consequence, and the consequence has not been good to companies like ours, as well as to the economy and the everyday person. Employment.
Yeah, lifestyle costs.
But what they've done is actually the right thing, because what happened after COVID was it was crazy. And when you're living through a very, very good cycle, you think that it will never end. For example, me and Vince were having this conversation the other day. I had consumers walk into the dealership and say to me, I've got a pre-approval at Investec at 6% interest. Would you like to match the deal and do the deal with your financial institution, or would you like me to send them the offer to purchase? And I said, well, let's find out. I was so cocky and arrogant that on speaker, I'll phone a senior person at Westbank. So I've got this and this ID number. Can you check on your system? It's pre-approved. Yes. You approved him at 9.75, whatever. He's got a 6% approval at Investec. Tell me, would you like the business, or should I let him go? Like arrogant. And this, Bobby, can we please retain the customer? I'll match 6%. So at that stage, I'm like, everything I touch turns to salt. Everything I touch turns to gold, because the health of the economy it's not real, right? It's not real. So what ended up happening is people overspend. People are not financially literate to begin with. And it's like offering, let me get it right quickly.
Are you saying our economy was good?
Our economy was very good.
During Zuma's years?
Our economy post-COVID was the best.
Or Cyril's years?
Yes.
After COVID?
Post-COVID.
To stimulate spending?
To stimulate spending and to stimulate the immediate effect of COVID, the lockdowns, etc.
Okay.
Just to give you an example, right? Pre-COVID, our best month was 158. Our best month as a company, 158 cars. We go into lockdown. We do a lot of work behind the scenes. We figure out how do we become a digital company? How do we sell online? How do we build trust? How do we deliver value without the consumer actually seeing the product? So we go and figure a few things out.
Yeah.
We were locked up for 6 weeks, if I'm not mistaken. Was it 6 weeks, 5 weeks, something like that? 6 weeks.
As a company?
Weeks. Yeah, I mean as a country. As a country, we were locked up. How long did
6
we?
weeks.
How long
It was
did
not
we
longer
stay?
than that.
Felt longer than that, eh?
It was much long. Oh, you mean like the first hard one? I think it was in March.
The hard one, yes.
There was
yes.
the first hard one, then they slowly started softening. But it was
Yes.
a long time.
Like I think 6 or 8
6 weeks is like a month. I think it was longer than
longer.
that.
So considering pre-lockdown, we did under 160
Mm.
as our record month as Mid-Mac Motors.
Yeah.
We get released exactly on the 16th. And in 2 weeks, we deliver 168 cars.
Jeez.
In 2 weeks. So half the time, more vehicles. The next month, we go just under 200, just over 200. So it was good. Because interest rates were so low,
Yeah.
consumers had disposable income.
Mm.
Now, connect that to, and I'm not talking middle class, lower income, lower LSM class. I'm going to throw everybody in the same pot here, including upper class.
Mm.
People are not financially savvy, so they immediately think this will be forever, and we're going to ride this gravy train. It will never end.
Sure.
And what happens is 18, 19, 20 months later, it plateaus 18 months later, and then it starts to sharply go down. So
Yeah.
as quickly as the gravy train started moving fast, it slowed down even quicker.
Mm.
And now people are facing payments of 3, 4, 5, 6,000 rand more, combining your house, your car, your insurance, your everything.
I've seen that.
And yeah, it hasn't been good. So I think post-COVID, the economy was very healthy, but it's not sustainable. And to answer your question, I think the Reserve Bank had to intervene and say, whoa, this is how we're going to crash. So they had to pull up the handbrake really quickly and really hard so that consumers slowed down the purchasing and started to take care of their credit, because it was going to run away with everyone.
So I think you're speaking more upper middle class and maybe rich from a perspective of trying to stimulate the entire economy, because it has a ripple effect. When you have to start cutting, some of the things you cut is overseas trips, maybe an extra car. But some of the places where people cut is their employees, whether it's people in the house or in their business, because they don't want to lose their lifestyle. And that ripple effect now is massive.
So how do you fix it? I think there's a balance between the health of the economy post-COVID, which was not real. That was
Manufactured.
Yeah, I think that was a moment. And now, because in my heart, I believe now is also not real. It's not real. It's too tight. So there has to be a middle ground somewhere between 2.5 years ago and the current state, which in my opinion is a drop of about, it's 11.75. If we can get it to 10.25 or 10.5, then it's sort of like a year before COVID, and that's where I feel that stability will come in. But it can't be so close to 12. It has to be 10 or just slightly above 10. Then everybody will recover. That's my opinion.
To close off on cars, your thoughts just on, I don't know anything about cars at all. The Beijing Auto Industrial Corporation, BAIC, which has been bringing a lot of cars. Some people might be like, it's thanks to brakes and the like. And I was in Mhlanga in Durban recently. I saw they've now got a BYD, I think it's Build Your Dream dealership there, which is a Chinese EV manufacturer. The impact of electric vehicles, are you guys tracking any of that? Do you see them coming in? At some point, we thought Teslas were going to rule the world. I thought Teslas were going to push the EV markets, especially in South Africa with Elon. Well, South African
Nostalgia
used
coming.
to be.
Yeah.
But it looks like BYD and other guys are coming in. I don't know if you guys are tracking that. And if you are tracking that, in your opinion, how many years till the bulk of our vehicles are electric?
It's a very long time.
In South Africa, not in the
Very-
world.
Very long time. I mean, just
More than 10 years.
I think it's probably more than 20 years. In my
Jeez.
opinion. I'll tell you why. So, in Bulgaria, I'm from Bulgaria.
Really?
Yeah.
I would have never guessed.
I'm a kwere.
Hectic.
But I do have a ID book.
Leon Schreiber, please come check this guy's papers. In Bulgaria.
You have a service that exists. You subscribe to an app, and it's fascinating. You subscribe to an app, and you can literally rent a car on the app. It shows you where the closest one is to you, all electric, and you can rent it for 3 hours because you need to go quickly to Sandton and come back.
Yeah.
And then you can drop it off at mainland because your next stop is at mainland.
Yeah.
You literally drop it off there. It opens on the app with your phone. Okay? And the reason why that works is, did you get what I said? So you open the app,
Okay.
you want to go to Sandton. So the closest one parked, just randomly parked,
Yeah.
is at BP.
Yeah.
You walk to the car, you
Scan your phone.
scan your phone, the
Yeah.
car unlocks, it starts, and you drive. You go to Sandton, and then you do your business there, and then you drive to
Mainland.
and you drop it off.
Park the car.
Park the car, and you walk into mainland, and Bob's your uncle.
Hey, take
Bob's
it easy there on
Bob's
the
your uncle.
pants.
Okay.
This happens in Bulgaria. Shout out to Bulgaria. I normally know these stories in China.
Bulgaria is a third world country. It's a very poor country in Europe.
Okay.
And the reason why that works is because the infrastructure to support
Yeah.
electric vehicles is hyper advanced. You've got superchargers literally everywhere. Everywhere. Electricity is cheap. It's very quick to charge your car because you've got the supercharger. So the Tesla, for example,
Yeah.
to charge the car, we drain the battery because it's got a cool effect. So whenever there's kids at the dealership, I pull them into the coffee shop, switch off the lights, and then it's got like this light display with sound and the music's pumping and the boots opening, the windows, it's freaking out. It's bewitched, that thing. But that drains the battery. So after like 20 of those shows, then the battery goes down.
Yeah.
If you plug it into the wall normally,
Yeah.
just into a 3-point plug like this, and you plug it in, it takes like 10 hours, 10 hours to charge back to 80%. That's a long time.
For the Tesla that's here.
In a normal plug.
How far can it go? With that?
About 450 Ks.
Okay, to
But-
charge for 10 hours. Okay.
But if you plug it into the supercharger, which you get with the car that you put at your house, which is obviously going to be at your house, and there's a couple on the way to Cape Town, Durban, so there is superchargers. That can take 40 minutes,
Jeez.
35 to 40 minutes
That's
to charge it.
significant.
That's significant, but those are few and far apart.
Yeah.
Now, in order for you to build a very, very high building, you need to have a strong foundation. My dad always said, Bobs, the real money is in this building where we currently sit.
Yeah.
The real money, the big money is not seen. You can't see where we've spent the most money, which is
Yeah.
in the foundation, to make sure that the walls don't crack, etc. And that's where South Africa is failing.
Okay.
We're not spending the money on the foundation. So BYD, I saw them at Kailami 2-3 weekends ago. We went to the Festival of Motoring. Beautiful cars, amazing, like freaking cool cars.
Yeah.
Will they sell? We tried to sell an electric Jag, we couldn't. We tried to sell the Tesla now for, it's like the 3rd month. We're really battling. Everybody loves the car.
Sure.
Everyone's scratching their head and they're like, 1.6 million? Nah, I'll buy a 911.
And infrastructure to support it.
That's the problem.
So we're still far. Until government... Is it government?
100%.
Invest? Is it government or is it business that must invest in the infrastructure?
Government needs to invest in the infrastructure. If they allow the private sector to do that, then the only way that they win is if the fees payable on importing electric vehicles,
Super incentives.
reduce, because currently they're very high. So, for example, a Tesla, Model 3 Tesla, in the UK is 1.1 million rand, the top of the range. By the time you import it in South Africa, it's double because
Yeah.
of all the taxes and fees you
Yeah.
have to pay. So unless it becomes cheaper to buy an electric vehicle than to buy a ICE vehicle, internal combustion chamber vehicle, that ship is just going to be docked.
Let's see how it goes. I know there was an MEC, I don't know if it was an MEC or MMC of transport, Indian Muslim guy in Joburg at some point that tried to introduce those cabs
Yeah,
where you pick it up at Park Station and you can park it at Sandton.
very cool.
It never happened. And I remember sitting with the mate, Craig Jabesi. He travels around the world. He's a crypto millionaire. And we were speaking about even scooters.
Yeah.
When you go to Asia and other countries where you scan your phone, you jump on it, you drop it off wherever, an electric motorbike, etc. And he was saying one of the biggest issues we have is just crime. If you were to get rid of crime in this country, there are so many other cool things that we could do.
But crime pays, brother.
Alzi and I were speaking about this off camera, and we were sharing crime stories. I think it becomes one of the things. Are you from South Africa? How many crime incidents have you had? Yeah, you know this bump here, and you're like, it's not cool.
A dunga.
How sad our crime situation is when Elsie was sharing her story, she was like, at least they did this. I'm like, that's bad. When you're like, oh, at least they just took the phone, or at least they just took the car.
Because
you're like, I'm not traumatized because they just took my stuff.
Decentivized. Was it the company phone? Because I heard a different story. I heard she sold it.
Let's keep this a safe space, please. Can we please keep this a safe space? Thank you. We've got a crime problem in this country, and it's probably not unique to this country. One of the things I have said about South Africa, which people may not understand, is our statistics and data collection is actually much better than by far the rest of the continent and many other sort of developing nations.
Okay.
We try. I'm hoping to sit with Padi Lehotla, who was the statistics general, something along those lines before.
I want to
He stepped
see
down
you
now.
try and tease him about spreadsheets.
Yeah, no, I think he eats, sleeps. He'd probably listen to you and be like, I don't have time for Bobby. He doesn't understand Excel. Even during COVID or during the COVID period, the reason we had the highest number of cases is because we tracked the data. The rest of the African continent wouldn't care. So when it comes to crime, HIV stats, and I do think we're overrepresented. Purely because you travel the rest of the world and you're like, we can't be that bad. It's like America. America sells propaganda. America's the land of milk and honey. It's brilliant until you see, I don't know if it's Skid Row in Los Angeles, and you see some other poorer parts of Chicago, and you're like, no, man, why does no one know? It's because they hide it very well. With that being said, we do have a crime problem, to be honest, in this country. We were aware of it. Many of us have been victims. Whether I left my phone here, I've had cars stolen as an example. We've spoken about the most stolen cars in the country. I've been held at gunpoint. Alzi's been held at gunpoint. I think Vince, because he's got big guns, they
I wanna
realize
hold him.
maybe not.
Yeah, no.
You know?
Pass.
There are a couple of issues we have with crime in this country. One of them is our political leaders with their business friends don't respect the sovereignty of this country. That's why our borders are not prioritized. We speak about it, politicians speak about it. Gayton and them threatened deportation, and I'm like, that's cute, but what's the point of deporting someone if they're going to walk back tomorrow? So we're not serious about sovereignty. People come into OR Tambo. There were some guys that were deported recently from one of the Asian countries. I don't know if it was Pakistan or what, that didn't have papers. So the sovereignty is the one issue. The other issue is income inequality. And most people that are well off don't understand what this means. What it means is that you have a choice. You either, how do I put this? Because again, this goes back to government. You either earn less so that other people can have jobs, or you retain your salary and then you have to get or live in a estate, you have to get private security, you have to pay for insurance, you have to get a gun, and all these things. It's a trade-off. And depending on who you're asking, they might be like, no, it's cheaper to actually invest in this and have my kids go to secure schools and then letting go of my nice salary for income inequality. Because the truth is, many South Africans are desperate. 350 Rand a month is not a living wage. The fact that your child goes to school for free and gets fed there and you have free healthcare is not enough. Realistically speaking, when we speak about the lifestyle costs. Yeah. So something has to give. And we have amongst the highest income inequality in the world, which it's easy to point fingers at white people. Yeah, apartheid and what. But I know black people that that are earning 200, 300, 500,000 Rand a month as workers, who if ever I was to be like, if you were to let go of just 100,000, our neighborhoods, it's like never. I work hard for this. I studied. I'm like, but the next white kid says the exact same thing. It's like, yeah, but it's different with me. I'm like, whatever. So we've got income inequality. And then the last one I'm going to raise, let me maybe speak about the sovereignty issue before I raise the last one. There is an incentive to not having borders for business people. Contraband, what we call illegal, illicit cigarettes. I almost know for a fact that there are a lot of commodities, mining commodities, gold, coal, that go across borders without people seeing them because our borders don't kind of exist. And anything else that is being traded, including human beings. Human trafficking could be one. The other one is cheap labor. Because if I'm running big business, there's no way I can afford people, or I want to afford people here. And also, it's cheaper to have immigrants come in undocumented because then I can exploit them. It's like modern slavery, but we don't speak about it. The last one was the industry we've created around crime, which I kind of touched on.
Yeah.
If we were to eradicate crime in this country, many, many people would lose their jobs. Every shop that has a security card, they have to go. It's like, why are you here? No one steals. Every person that works for private security, these guys that patrol, every company that's selling guns, selling pepper spray, all these institutions that are training security guards, all these shooting ranges, the PPE guys for security, the compliance guys, prisons, as an example. You'd have to let go of a lot of prison warders. The tenderpreneurs like Bosasa, we lost Gavin Watson, according to some people. We had Angelo Akriti, one of the guys that likes sending me DMs. G4S, Tabo Bester. That whole
business.
industry, it's a big business. In America, it's very privatized. In South Africa, you normally make money through the tenders, supplying. All of that, prison warders, the guys that transport prisoners, also the overalls. There's so much money in crime in this country. I think of some of the neighborhoods because you see the things on the houses. Whoever runs Cobra, Green Mamba, whatever it is, and they're like, oh, you see this house? It's owned by the guy who owns the... There are people that are wealthy in this country because of crime. To a point where if ever you removed crime, I would believe that they would send guys to go and commit crimes so that you can sign up to the alarm system, to the private security, to the whatever. Vehicles, you guys sell cars to people that patrol and that becomes one of the other issues we have. But it comes at the cost of your children are not safe. Your wife is not safe. You can't walk around freely. And then we lose out on all these benefits. Things like certain technology, charging this, tap your phone here, specifically because of this crime. And now we can't grow our economy in innovative and technologically advanced ways.
So, about 2 years ago, I get a gentleman, two gentlemen, walk into Mitmac and demanding to speak to me. Body language, very intimidating, very aggressive.
Yeah.
In like combat uniform. So for the purpose of this conversation, because you brought it up, immediately I think of the 80s, early 90s, Eastern European mafia. Okay. Having grown up watching Goodfellas, watching Casino, watching those movies, my parents immigrated from the communist regime to avoid the shit I'm going to talk about now. So it happens to me. I've never told anyone this. There's probably 3 or 4 people that know about this. They walk in, they say, we are a private security company. We are establishing a footprint in the area. And we've heard that people want to vandalize your vehicles. And we are just here to give you a heads up. And we will protect your vehicles should anything happen. I said, well, that sounds familiar. I need protection. From who? Well, we've heard that people don't like you and they want to vandalize your car. I said, okay, no problem. I appreciate your concern. We do have at that stage we had, I won't call them a weak security company, but we had one that was local and it was used in the area, and they were not as strong as they should have been. This is not a lie. For 5 days in a row, at one of the dealership, someone came and keyed 5 cars. So they took a key and they went from the back tail light all the way to the front tail light. Now, if you do that with the key, it's a very thin line that that you can't flat and polish. It means you have to repaint the whole side of the car. Okay. So for 5 nights in a row, 5 cars. So 25 cars damaged. Looking at a loss of probably 15,000 rand per car to repair at a very high standard. 25 cars damaged. I said, okay, no problem. So this is extortion, right?
That's definitely extortion.
Okay, so this is extortion. So how do we solve this? At that stage, I'm very fortunate to have sold vehicles to people working undercover at the Hawk. So I've got a few friends that are very influential and that can help me. I raised my hand. I said, "This is what happened." He said, "Really? No problem." On the 6th night, we catch these people. We catch these people, arrest them, take them, keep them there, and eventually they say, "No, we were sent by this and this company." Yeah. Okay. So crime pays, because what the intent is for me to fund that business card and say, "Listen, you were right, come and protect us." The moment that you do that, you become a victim forever. You've sold your soul.
It's a protection fee. We've got it happening rampantly in the country all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Especially in the Eastern Cape.
Yeah. So what do? We go and get a security company that is very strong. So the next time this organization sends people to come and remove headlights, and because that's a thing with the polos, right? And remove headlights and vandalize our property, they are met with an equal, if not greater force.
Yeah.
And then they don't come back again. So what ended up happening in short is I went from spending 23,000 Rand to protect our shops from the local agency that everybody in Pretoria North uses, to spending 115,000 Rand to protect our dealerships per month.
I'll share my little story. I did the opposite of what you did, and I'm not blaming this company, but I have to mention them. They may not have been involved. I had a fish and chip shop in the Johannesburg CBD near Gandhi Square on Elof Street back in 2012. The night before I opened, reps from Chubb Security came to offer alarms. They were like, "Look, there's crime in this area." I'd been setting up the shop for a couple of weeks. I hadn't had any issues. They were like, "Look, guys, there's crime in this area." I'm like, "No, I think we're fine." The day before I opened,
vandalized.
The next morning, it had been broken into. I'm not saying it's them, right? Could be a coincidence.
But it could be them.
It could be them. We don't know, right? I don't have friends at the Hawks, and those. I'm not from Bulgaria. I wasn't trained in.
I've got.
Where were you trained for your? Where were you trained?
In Zimbabwe.
They literally came the next day, in the afternoon. I signed up. I never had any problems thereafter. There's work that's currently being done now by General Mkhwanazi in KZN. A lot of people are applauding him. I really, really hope that all the guys that are being gunned down are criminals. But a lot of so-called criminals and murderers are being gunned down in KZN, and many people are celebrating this guy, saying he should become the minister or the commissioner of police. Organized crime, including corruption and bribery and even in tenders and stuff, has become so normal. While I'm listening to your story, I'm wondering how deep some of these things go, because from 20-something thousand to 100-something thousand, you could have just signed those same guys that were vandalizing. And how much of the knockoff, because yes, it's a protection fee, but you're almost paying another type of protection fee. You're just hoping these guys are better guys because they weren't picked up as, and you start getting paranoid with everyone. Because the idea of just having to pay for protection, whether you're paying government, private security, a police officer, because these days we have to bribe cops to do their job, it feels like everyone is extorting us in some way.
Yeah. So it's a choice, right? And it's one.
What's a choice?
Who do you pay?
It's a choice?
It's a choice.
It's a choice.
It's a choice.
Because there's consequences.
Because there's consequences.
Oh, okay.
Now, Had I gone the cheaper route and say, you guys were right, 100%. We've had, overnight we've had 5 cars keyed. The loss, short, medium, and long term would have been, sitting here right now would have been a lot less. But would it have been a lot less? Because now, all of a sudden, these people walk around town and press and see who's soft.
Yeah.
And the moment that you're soft, do you think they'll stop pressing?
Do you know the Godfather story?
Relatively well, yes.
I used to be a big reader. I don't anymore. I know Vince said I must read Sapiens. I'm going to try myself out. Yuval Noah Harari. Mario Puzo wrote The Godfather, and I happened to find this book secondhand. I read it, and one of the big takeouts of the book, which I think I struggled with the movie or the trilogy, was how mafias come about, how that specific mafia was born, how Don Corleone was born. And it was this idea of injustice. If you look at some of the movies that are big now, lately, Avengers Infinity War with Thanos, you had Heath Ledger as the Joker in The Dark Knight.
Yeah, that's a good movie.
Brilliant movie.
I really
Christopher
like that.
Nolan. You've got the latest Batman, which I want to reference. You spoke about an equal or greater force. The story of Don Corleone is this guy who comes from some town in Italy, moves to this place in America, and there's these guys that extort to try and keep it as short as possible. And at some point, he's like, no, I don't want to pay whatever you. It's like, yeah, but you want to get in trouble. And he finds out that these guys are terrorizing shops, and everyone is scared of them. And he gets to a point where he's like, this is bullshit. And he goes, he gets a gun, and he shoots this guy. Right after shooting the guys have gotten so used to having a protector that they're like, you are now our protector. And they start giving him money to protect them as their godfather. And in that way, mafias get born. Right?
Sheep, yeah.
Which is how politicians gain power, whether people want to call it or not. Politicians, especially in countries that don't have guns, have a monopoly on violence. If you don't behave, we will arrest you. If you don't behave, we will shoot you. If you don't, that's a form of bullying and tyranny that people will not call because we assume they're good people. And there are mafias in this country. We've got a couple. The taxi industry, which I can almost guarantee our politicians are scared of, because there are certain things they are allowed to do that ordinary people cannot. We saw it even during
But on that,
COVID.
I just want to bounce with you.
Sure.
Will they go out of their way to go and take over other livelihoods, or are they a mafia that protects what they've built over the ages? And there's a certain fee to enter the club.
Yeah.
And at some level you can't enter the club because the club is already full. So perhaps that's a little bit different, in my opinion, compared to the protection seekers, the guys that are saying you need to protect us. The taxi industry is fascinating to me.
Sure.
I love speaking. I can speak about the taxi industry for years with you because you understand it deeply, and I'm fascinated by it. I know that a Quantum 14-seater Sesfikile can check up to 2,500 rand per day, doing some of the gold routes, which are from a certain point to a certain point. Now my math says 2,500 rand per day. Okay, shit. A new Quantum is so much. Finance the Quantum, it's a Quantum, so they don't break. 5, 6, 700,000 kilometers guaranteed, which happens quickly. Hence the crime industry. That's where all the Fortuners engines and the Hilux engines end up going into. So that's funny.
Because they use the same.
It's the same platform, but on the taxi industry, looking at it very high level, it's very lucrative.
Yeah.
But because it is, you can't enter it because there's certain Don Corleones there. I'm sure there's maybe one guy there. We work with someone that owned 8 Kumbis.
Yeah.
And this is a story that he told me. I said, homie, why did you sell the Kumbis? What were they checking in per day? No, this one was checking in $1,200. I'm like, shit, that's good money, bro. And then Sunday, the driver uses it for his own. So that's how the structure works. It's a commission based. He needs to bring it in full and he needs to make sure. So I have a fair understanding of it. So why did you leave? Because you built up 8. He says, well, one day we went to a association meeting. And in the meeting, there's 2 or 3 guys that look non-conspicuous. Can I say that
Sure.
word? They look
Inconspicuous.
inconspicuous, sorry. But we have it on record. I've made you speechless before, even though you control the English language so well. And these 3 guys speak, and when they speak, you shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Well, this guy didn't. This guy to his left. And he kept on questioning something that everybody in the room knew was right.
Yeah.
But it's something that everybody knew better to question.
Yeah.
So what happened is, after the meeting, I think 15 or 50 minutes, but it was under an hour, the guy got shot
Sure.
and killed. So I said, so what did you do? He says, very easy. I went, I washed the kumbis, and I sold them.
Sure. So the taxi industry has got a mafia. The gangs, which includes drugs in the Cape, is most popular, but they everywhere around the country. They've got their own mafias. We've heard of a construction mafia now, which is a cartel. They were popular during the building of the stadiums, 2010. And now there's a popular construction mafia in KZN that's being spoken about.
Is it, do they operate in the sense that you won't get a project unless it's through us, or you have to pay us, or how does that work? Can you unpack it?
Almost all of these guys operate similar. So with Don Corleone, what happened during that time is they ended up, I think this is partly where I wanted to get to. They ended up with all the money they were collecting, having influence over areas. Because this is how the world works. You can call it a mafia, an empire, a king, a president. It is all about controlling territory.
Yeah, and it's influence over territory.
Yeah, and what happens with that territory is it depends. There's mining mafias as well. It depends on what's on that territory. Is it a route, a lucrative route for a taxi? Is it a certain area to sell drugs to people? Is it certain tenders to build stadiums or hospitals or schools? Is it access to tax money through government? So whatever it is, it's controlling some type of territory and whatever resources that are there, to a point where you start funding anyone who operates within there, be it a judge, a lawyer, a police officer, a politician.
Got you.
Kind of situation. So they all operate the same. They dictate who comes in, who goes out, how big you can get. There is something in the taxi industry of being too big, where you've got 3 taxis you've been making. Why not buy more? You're like, no, I'm good here. Then why? No, I'm okay here. There's a guy that thought they were being great and ambitious. They'll tell you 3 taxis are fine. Go buy cows or something, but you're fine here, and it's okay. So you get limited.
Because the moment you buy your 5th or 10th or whatever the
Yeah.
number is, and there's a situation, then you are expected to go and get a gun and go and handle the situation. Is that what you're saying?
No, that's not what I'm
No,
saying.
okay.
You're taking money from someone else's family.
Okay, I understand. So 3 is enough, but 13.
And depending on whose family it is or who their friends are.
Okay, got you.
There's different types of people in the world. Some are, I don't know if you'd call them cowards, or they're just scared, because men know each other. Women may not know men, but men know that we're animals. We're very dangerous animals. So if I can come and approach you and be like, Bobby, please don't buy another taxi. And you might be like, are you sure? And I'm like, I'm sure, don't buy another taxi. And you're like, you know what, I've got you. And we could. Other guys are scared that if I say that to you, you might be like, who are you to tell me I mustn't buy another taxi?
I understand.
Now we've started something. Now out of fear,
understand.
I might want to remove you. Or out of whatever annoyance you have, you're like, how dare he tell me not to? Who is he anyways? So you've got a situation of undereducated people fighting over scraps to feed their families in various ways that sometimes take each other out.
I
In all the
understand.
industries I've mentioned, all of them, they all kill each other. Politics, construction, mining, taxis, the drugs. It's just easier to look at the drugs and those things. But the drugs, the ones on the streets, are easier to see and speak about. The pharmaceutical companies that run the world are huge drug dealers. And the way that they take people out, you'll never know.
Yeah.
You know, kind of situation. Same with certain big politicians. They'll never be like, we were killing people. But because they've got the biggest instruments, they have people arrested. People that are liberators and activists of oppression, they can send armies
To come and take
to
them.
come and murder and bomb and be like, no, these are insurgents and terrorists, whatever. And they've got the media. They've got all these things, that the tools that smaller. If we just own like a little taxi route, we're small. We don't own a newspaper. We don't own politicians. There's no one there to protect us.
I've got a personal story on exactly what you speak.
Hit me.
The first time that I ever encountered a real gangster, the first time, not a wannabe, not a wannabe. The first time I encountered a real gangster, I was probably 21, 22 in business. I've encountered gangsters in high school. I used to hang out with them guys that were doing like all sorts of reckless shit, but low level type of shit. The first time I encountered a proper gangster.
Yeah.
The gent came in extremely well spoken.
Yes.
Extremely friendly.
Yes.
Extremely nice, and he was interested in a car that my mom was driving. So I'm not going to mention too much. And he said, I really would like to purchase this vehicle. And he had one of the coolest cars I've ever seen. And I would like to trade this car in. So I really wanted his car. So I said to him, no problem. We did the transaction. He paid me out the difference. And he took the car. So I was driving the school car that we traded in. It was like attention, and it was like a 23-year-old's dream. 2 weeks later, he phones me, says, hi, how are you? I'm good. How are you, uncle? I'm very good, thank you. I just want to let you know that this afternoon at 4 o'clock, I'll be bringing the car that I took, and I want my old car back. I missed the car, and I want you to pay me out the difference without any shortchanging me. Okay. I've never told this story. So I'm like, now, physically, not very intimidating. Body language, the way he spoke to me was not, I didn't feel like I was threatened. No.
Yeah.
That's the best part, right? So I said, look, it's been 3 weeks. Is there, I just want to understand, is there a problem with the car? Because my mom used the car for the longest time.
Yeah.
He says, no problem at all. I just want my old car back. I miss it. And I know it's still available. So at 4 o'clock, I would like you to return the car to my home and also EFT the money into this account. So now at 23, front part of my brain isn't developed. Not that it's developed now. I say to him, I can't do
Because it definitely hasn't developed now.
I can't do that. Probably one day when I'm 50. So I can't really do that, uncle, because it's already been done. You've signed a contract. And he said, let me stop you. Who do you know in Pretoria North that's influential? And the most influential person that I knew at that stage is a person. So I call out his name. He says, cool. Phone him and ask him who I am.
Damn.
I said, okay, uncle, I'll do that. Thank you very much. But I'm very polite.
I love the you being polite, by the way.
Yeah.
Respect will get you a long way in life, and it'll allow you to live long.
So the story gets very fucking weird and very beautiful quickly. So I found this gent and I say to him, sir, I would like to come and see you. He says, no problem, come. So I drive to him and I'm getting goosebumps, bro. I've never told this story. And I sit with him and I say, listen, I traded this car. And he said, I know the car. Everyone knows the car.
Yeah.
Well, we've had it for 3 weeks, and he took this vehicle and he paid me out a difference. It was a huge amount, like 150,000 Rand. And he phoned me now and he said that he wants his car back and he wants the money back. He hasn't driven much with the other vehicle, but he wants me to return it at 4 o'clock. So he says, what did you say? I said, no. And he said, who's the most influential person that you know in the area? And I said, it's you. So he asked me to come and speak to you and tell you what he said. He says, why are you still here? Go and return. Do you know who this fucking guy is?
Oh, John Wick.
I'm like, no. He says, give him his money, give him his car, apologize, and just be cool.
Yeah.
I said, okay, no problem. 4 o'clock, come there with the proof of payment, with his car. Thank you, it's washed. Thank you very much. I apologize if I offended you. You said you didn't. No problem. 1 week from there, he buys a car for his wife, his son, his daughter, his other son.
From you?
He buys 4 cars in a space of a week.
From you?
From me. Drives the cool car for about a year and brings it back, trades it in and buy. He's probably bought 15 cars from me since that time. But that was my first real encounter with someone that's very dangerous.
I forgot to mention that part of the industry that's been created, because these people kill each other, is the industry of izinkabi, which are hitmen. So we've even got an industry now of young kids. I've met a couple of them who can't get jobs and they are hired to kill people. They don't do much research. They just track how you move, your routines, and they get paid and they move. That's how deep our crime is in this country.
What is the going rate for a hit?
I don't know. I don't know anything about anything. No, I don't know. I sat with one guy.
Because, I mean, there must be like a scale. If you're very influential, it can't be 500 Rand, right?
It's not about influence, because the movies are nice. The movies are nice in terms of, this is a big guy, so there's a big ticket.
Okay, so it's not like that.
No. You can get an influential guy taken out for very cheap. What's complicated is how difficult it is to take a person out. That's where the money goes up, and then the potential consequences and how many people are needed for the job. It's not so much, it's this person has got security around them all the time.
I understand.
Tracking them is not easy. If ever you catch them,
car.
there's a chance that you're going to get taken out. And I need you to know, you're like, that risk.
Okay.
It's like, nah, because it's become an industry in itself. Guys ask, hey, this Bobby guy, like, hey, do you want to say no? Yeah, when it's easy, like, hey, don't. Because what's going to happen is, if the wrong people find out that you're involved, you're going to be the last person they take out. They're going to take out everyone else that you know before you.
I understand.
And it's not going to be clean hits. There's going to be torture because it's not about you. They're going to want to let everyone know that you messed with the wrong person so that it never happens again.
We live in a parallel universe.
I might be asked to come torture you and you're my mate. So I'm telling you, get out of there. Because again, like I said, men know that we are animals. And anyone who lives in the real world and has studied history will know what I was saying about territory. Because we speak about South Africa now, we had apartheid, British rule. This morning I was watching a video on the scramble for Africa at the Berlin conference. Any territory, it could be your little house with an alarm system and your dogs that you feed and your little gun. Any territory, depending on how valuable it is to you, is worth killing for and being killed for. And now a country like South Africa, and maybe the mining mafia might be the biggest, to be honest. The resources that we have,
is it because it controls the most money?
It's what built South Africa. Everything else came after. It's what built South Africa.
Okay.
And the guys that built South Africa were not... I apologize. I hope I don't offend anyone. They were not taxi bosses.
Okay.
They were not fighting over routes. These are not mining... Guys who run mining and commodities around the world. We can mention some of the companies today. Top tier. Today we've got Glencore, Trafigura, Vitol. They're known, they're popular. But they are serious miners who are serious cowboys.
So
those are businesses that pay bribes, but they still wear suits and they speak well.
But top tier means that we don't only control a certain portion of town and we can pay the politician and the two cops that run that portion. It means we control the country. So we can pay...
It may not even just be the country. It's if your country is problematic, whoever when we speak about sanctions and it's when my friends can switch off your country.
Got you.
I don't know if, we speak about now cars and there are people that can be like, stop supplying those guys with maize where like children are dying of hunger. And you're like, this doesn't make sense. You're like, yeah, that's the level. There was a meme that went around during COVID of looters and the different levels. And they were like small-time looters and criminals. And then you get to the highest level, which is like the kings and the queens and heavy politicians. Those are the biggest thugs and criminals in the world. And they have the biggest tools. And that's why when the leader of China and Russia and America have issues, everyone is meant to get nervous. Because when they go for each other, it's not me and you. It's this guy will shut down your country. Where you're like, we don't have fuel. We're trying to fuel cars. There's no fuel. Why? It's like, Cyril said something annoying to a sheikh in the Middle East, and they decided, no, we're not. Where do they get their petroleum products from?
Us.
And you're like, I'm gonna call my mate. Stop supplying those guys. Why? Because he disrespected me and my family. And you're like, are you sure? This is a good mate of mine. Like, fuck your good mate.
Stop.
Just stop. Because I need him to apologize, And then what's going to happen is then we have these conferences. The president of What has met with an official diplomatic business. It's because it's like, bro, please apologize or whatever. Or if you're not, we don't really have assassinations anymore. The world has moved. But you will be taken out of office. Few political players will be brought in, votes of no confidence. You'll be moved. Just, it gets done very easily. That's why some of the leaders, even when they remove from power, they don't squeal. They don't. They don't say, like, Uzuma's not going to go on a platform and explain what happened with the arms deal. There are too many people involved. So Cyril is also not going to explain where Pala money came from. There are too many people involved. So you just laugh, you say what you have to say, and the public don't matter because they live on grants. Those are like their pacifiers. Give them a grant, they suck on the dummy, play some amapiano, give them a free public holiday, let the Springboks win. Forget those people. What happens though is you have to respect each other's territory. I forgot to mention, we speak about the Cape Flats. Not enough is being spoken about of the murders every week in Mpumalanga at the mines. People get taken out every week over a tender, over a deal, someone did something, etc. And I can only imagine in places like Richards Bay, where a lot of our commodities move, how much organized crime happens there as well. But going back to territory, the reason our government doesn't interfere with the taxi industry and they'll pretend to fine the construction guys and they'll never ever talk about pharmaceuticals or banking is because you have to respect each other's territory. And everyone somewhere has a boss. If not a boss, then they have friends that are very influential. So those are the reasons why certain things are off topic and we can't speak about it. But we just speak about it. It sounds like conspiracy theories. No one really cares. It's like we're just talking trash. So
we're not. Last night I watched a video of Andrew Tate. And
Cobra Tate, Top G.
Yeah. And he asked a question. And I posted on Instagram as a poll. And it's probably one of my better performing posts that I've ever had. And he asked the question, which is relevant to what we're speaking about. Would you rather be a loser that smiles all the time and is happy? Or would you rather be a stressed out winner?
That's a question for the audience. I want to speak about Starlink and freedom, if we still have time.
Let's do it.
We still have time? Which one is more important? South Africans care about Starlink, I think. So I won't speak about that first. So they can hold on. Yes.
I've got a friend, a very good friend from Cape Town who, just quick story, man. This is like, I love this guy. I call him Raki. His name is Andries.
Sure.
Why I call him Raki is when we went for matric holiday, I had a chef Kosabaki, and we went to Struisbaai. That's like the furthest, most southern point in Africa.
Okay.
Struisbaai. And we hired a house for 6 people, but like 56 or 67 people ended up staying there. It was a mess. Because we're 19. I was 19 because I'm a little bit slow learner. Everyone else was 18. Anyway, one morning we wake up after being drunk the night and doing weird shit. And I check this boy, he's hugging the tire of my Corsa bakkie, but he's underneath the bakkie and he's using it as a pillow. So I said, "Are you a Raki?" He says, "No, why?" I said, "If I didn't see you, I'd fucking reverse over your head and then you'll be dead and I'll be in jail. So why are you sleeping under the car?" He said, "Die son brand." Because the sun was, he said he was on the back of the bakkie, but the sun
was burning him.
Can you imagine after drinking so many brandies and smoking who knows what, that he was underneath the car. But anyway, this dude ends up qualifying as a programmer, and he works at ABSA for a while, and eventually goes and starts cleaning boats in the south of France or somewhere in Monaco, whatever.
Okay.
He goes and starts cleaning boats as a dock boy, cleaning the boats, and studies, ends up becoming a captain of many super yachts, one of them being the super yacht for the owner of Sony Music.
Jeez.
For a while. And on Starlink. And we're chatting about, I saw him in December at his house. he bought a Mercedes-Benz GTR Pro as his car in Cape Town that he comes home to and is excited about, because he ended up studying so much. He's a captain of a super yacht.
Yeah.
Now, for the guys that don't know what a super yacht is it's a yacht that you rent out, that the captain takes you wherever you want to go. You pay per day, excluding fuel and food and expenses, and I think per week it's something ridiculous, but it's millions of rands, and they are constantly full. They're like back to back to back to back to back. So they'll have a family of a CEO that wants to just get away for a week and recharge, and then they'll have 2 Russian billionaires on the super yacht with 50 girls. So it depends who comes to visit the super yacht. So they're like this crazy stories he tells me. But on Starlink, we're at his house and he's doing something on his phone. He wants to show me, and he says, the freaking internet's so slow. I'm like, what do you mean?
Sure.
So he says, in the middle of the ocean, in the middle of the Atlantic or wherever the fuck that yacht is, of the ocean, the internet, because they use Starlink, is between 10 and 20 times faster than at his house in Melkbosstrand in Cape Town. Starlink. So why the hell can't we have Starlink? Are we going to unpack it?
No, we can't unpack it because we don't have the information. ICASA, which is the regulator of bandwidth or whatever it is, the guy that offers licenses, or the people that offer the licenses for network providers. And look, there's probably a mafia or a cartel around network providers. Vodacom,
Has to be.
Cell C, if they're still alive, MTN,
They're
Telkom
still
now.
alive.
You know, Cell C is always on life support. Just never know. One of these days, if it's gonna, you know.
Shame.
They obviously create a lot of jobs.
They do.
They create a lot of jobs. They pay a lot of tax. They sponsor some of our favorite sports teams. And they are providers of choice. So if you bring in a new player that's aggressively disruptive, and there's a chance that that player, a lot of that money is not going to end here, it becomes dangerous. That's something to consider for people that may not know.
So then it's okay to defend it. But then...
So if you're defending it, you must say that. You must say that so that people know.
Yeah.
The story currently that's been frustrating, I'll park the other topic for maybe another day, maybe, if we have time. When foreign companies come into South Africa, and this is not unique to us, by the way, they are normally required to get a BEE partner. I know for a lot of people, this is where you get nauseous and want to vomit. You're required to get a BEE partner. I think Eswatini, if I'm not mistaken, last I checked, if you're a foreign company, foreign includes South African businesses in Eswatini because they're a different country, you have to give 50% of your business to the king. So as far as I know, 50% of all foreign, if not maybe also local businesses, Eswatini, are owned by the royal family. In other countries, they've got their own regulations. Some of them could be you pay a specific tax because you're a foreign-owned business. Part of it is that you're required to hire locals, which is meant to be a requirement in this country, but it's not enforced as well as it's meant to be. Some of it is corporate social responsibility or investment. You're a mine operating in a certain build a school,
develop infrastructure,
make sure that there's a clinic, give the people jobs. There's a portion of some of the tenders at all the mines, my understanding. There's a portion of the tenders that must go to local entrepreneurs. Okay. So some of those things get sorted out. So Starlink is not a unique story. Maybe some people are not aware. A lot of foreign businesses. That's why at some point Cyril was the owner of McDonald's South Africa. And we can go into many other companies as well if people ever want to look at the list. Because you need a BEE partner. The notion behind it is good. The notion behind black economic empowerment was good. Black people were legislatively kept out of the mainstream economy because of laws. We are now a free country. We're a republic. We're a rainbow nation. We have a democracy. We'd like to fix some of the imbalances of the past. If you've got 2 children, the one child was a boy, the one was a girl. The boy could go to school and become rich. Your daughter, because she was a girl, couldn't go to school. Now we're free. Now you're like, well, your daughter needs to catch up. And how we do that is, in some way, sadly, we punish your son. So if he has to work or earn something, some of that tax, some of those hours have to go to his sister. As a loving parent, you're meant to be like, okay, I think I get it. My daughter mustn't be left in the cold just because of laws. So a similar thing happens with black and white. Let's fix the redress. We can debate it 30 years later if that was the best model. And it's one of the things I think I've responded on Twitter to one of the leaders of AfriForum about, because they've got huge issues with BEE. And I understand some of the reasons. But part of my counter is, if not BEE, we could have had a radical takeover. You know, the ANC government could have been like, we're radically taking over all businesses and then we're going to allocate as we want. Looking at how BEE has failed, that could have been even worse and our economy could have been fucked. So it was an attempt. Where black people get upset with BEE, sorry, I'm giving a backstory on black economic empowerment, is that black economic empowerment was meant to fix the injustices of the past economically, but not for a select few, but for everyone. By punishing the people that benefited and not every white person. That's why I think Julius has also said, if you're a white guy and you're a school teacher and you're complaining, shut up. We're not going after you. We're going after Johann Rupert or we're going after the Oppenheimers. It's not about you. We're trying to fix. You yourself are probably a school teacher and not a business owner because of some of these issues. The ANC and the rich people that funded the ANC, especially leading up to what we call liberation, 1990 to 94, handpicked the black people they wanted to work with. It's not a crazy story. It makes sense. Mid-Mac needs a BE partner, must be black, must be young. I'm not really young anymore. You're like, we know Pen. We could go search for someone, but we know this guy. He knows exactly what we're trying to do. We're trying to empower the community of Pretoria North. So they handpicked your Cyrils, Saki Makozoma, I'm not sure about Lazarus Zim. You had Dr. Anna Mokhokong, Tokyo Sekhwale, Patrice Mutsipe, whose father was Augustine. He had good relationships with the Manals. These are people we know. We want to fix the injustices. Now, two bad things happen, or two things happen because of these groups. Number one, these are capitalists. These are people that know business. So if I need to get like women into the business, I'm going to start with my daughter. I'm going to start with your daughter, Vince's daughter, because these are our kids. And then we're like, oh, we're ticking boxes. We've got female representation. But then you realize it's our daughter, so it kind of doesn't work. The black people that they handpicked, maybe starved of money, or maybe because they're capitalists themselves, did not spread the money the way they were supposed to. You're bringing Afrikaner business people in a affirmative action transaction during apartheid. Those Afrikaans people take their money, they build nice schools. They invest in the rugby teams. They develop. So you look at a certain dorpie and you're like, you know, because of Mr. van der Merwe, who got tenders during apartheid, this town is developed. The black guys who make money don't do that. They take their money, they invest offshore, they buy huge mansions, they splurge on garbage. The money is not developing. You can't look at all of these guys I've mentioned as an example and be like, these are the schools. This is the Motsipe school that he built, or this chain of schools. This is the school Tokyo Sekhwale has. They haven't done that. So it became a fuck up in that sense, which is why later on they would change BEE to broad-based, to almost be like, let's do it broadly and not isolate. But also these guys that they're working with are also not really about empowerment. It's just about getting their friends to, number one, carry on unlocking government money, tenders, etc., and even the financing that comes from it. They still in some way benefit. So BE, by and large, at least this part of it, the preferential procurement and the equity deals, is a fuck up. That's why black people are still complaining. And that's why they call ANC leaders sellouts. And some people be like, but even the white people, the Oppenheimers and all these people, they handpicked their selected black people and not much has changed. They just live next door to each other now. So Starlink has to come into the country. They need a BEE partner because it's meant to benefit, including people that were economically disadvantaged. What that means is that when Starlink comes here, some of the jobs must be for previously disadvantaged people, black, colored, Indian. Because if you don't let that happen, the Americans are going to come in, bring American people, and be like, but the companies here are like, no, we need locals. Some of them will be white people. We hope that because of inherited white privilege, they will get jobs anyway. But we need this quota of saying you'll also hire. Then we need, in whatever money is being made, some money that's going to benefit communities. Poor communities. So I know Starlink works with satellites, but let's say they worked with hard infrastructure, poles, some that sit in Alexandra, some sit in Tembisa. that community must benefit. Can you, maybe Starlink has sponsored some of the spaza shops, or Starlink has sponsored some of the schools and the clinics, giving back. That falls under socio-economic development under BEE. The one that is the most upsetting is this one of equity. We're going to need an equity partner, which is 30%. And I saw someone debating this on Twitter and it annoyed me. They were like, none of the BEE equity deals were gifted. It wasn't free shares. You always have to raise funding to buy the stake. And I responded, I'm like, don't lie and be convenient. This funding that's raised is either vendor financing from the people that own the company, which means they're going to get paid probably in interest later on, or it's going to be the same politicians looting a PIC or some financial institution, money that's meant to be going to like real black people that need empowerment. And whatever dividends are going to be made, they're going to find ways to chow it so that even if there's a BEE scheme, hey, I'm buying BEE shares with Sasol or MTN or whatever, multi-choice, you'll find that the value of that thing has been eroded over the lock-in period of 10 years and the money was sucked. But these are technical issues. If Starlink comes into South Africa, the idea is that the ordinary South African will get way cheaper, super fast internet. It's meant to be a no-brainer. Then there's compliance. And your politicians that lie to everyone will be like, no, we do PE deals with everyone. And it's for the benefit of black people, you guys. There's going to be Antiza that works at Starlink offices. There's going to be a driver boy somewhere. And it's going to be because of us and PE. They don't speak about this equity thing, of which, number one, you'd need to ask, where's the money coming from? Some of it may be PIC money, which no one is actually investigating. We're hearing now with this two-pot system. I don't know. I don't think we'll get a chance to speak about it. The two-pot system and people being allowed to extract some of their money, which already upsets me that you need permission to extract your money. A lot of employers have not been paying. The pension and provident funds is one of the things that's come out. But a lot of that money goes and sits with retirement funds, of which Alexander Forbes now is partly owned, if not fully owned, by Patrice Motsepe. It gets hemorrhaged by these guys. No, we are funded by Alexander Forbes, by the PIC, by the NEF, by the ID. And you're like, but this is people's money that's going to Cyril, Tokyo, Saki. Same O's. And then you'll see that they're still friends with their same O's that were making money during apartheid. And the average pop black loser and the average pop white loser, Vincent, we're still not benefiting. We just hate each other. I fucking hate you because you're white. I hate you because you're black. Fuck PE, fuck apartheid. Those guys at the top are still chowing money kind of situation. So that's the issue we have. So for ordinary white people, they need to understand that this type of deal is normal.
Yeah.
And we do need to interrogate the merits of all BEE deals that have been done with foreign companies and how they have a negative impact on ordinary poor South Africans, number one. Number two, for black people that are like, yeah, they must do the BEE thing. Understand that these deals benefit the same politicians that are oppressing you, remaining rich, who take some of their money and give them to the same white people that they tell you to hate. Shanduka, for example, has got partnerships with Remgro and Johan Rupert through some of their friends at Pembani. These guys are mates. So you'll hate Rupert, but he does work with Putuma Nhleko and Cyril. You'll hate whoever, but Saki Matozoma has got deals in Australia. You'll hate Patrice, or you'll hate Australians. But Patrice has time bank interest with... So we end up becoming the clowns. Elon Musk, we love for various reasons. Other people hate him for various reasons. This is a solution. This is WhatsApp. This is Twitter. This is Facebook. This is whatever thing is going to make our lives easier. And access to the internet is a game changer because it's access to information. And it's gone beyond information because some of us make money from the internet. A little kid takes a phone, puts it up. Hey, what's up, everyone? It's Penuel, the Black Pen. They make 200 Rand from YouTube.
Yes.
Because of the internet. I get to sell stuff.
Yes.
We get to start exporting cars from Mid-Mac to China.
Because
maybe
of
not
internet.
China. Because of internet. So we need it. The internet is almost becoming as important a commodity as electricity. Because electricity is now a right. We actually don't need electricity. We can live very fine without it.
Yeah.
But it's been made a human right. We need water. But the internet is almost as important now as electricity because it's livelihood. If my internet connection is down, you can't send me money. If the internet connection is down, I can't tap and pay. If the internet connection is down, I can't upload a video and get money and feed my family. So It's become a lifeblood of sorts.
So
Sorry.
on that, let's reverse engineer who's at the front of this deal. It's a guy, in my opinion, that's not driven financially.
According to him.
According to me, it's my opinion.
You believe Elon Musk is not driven financially?
Not now,
Okay.
not currently. In the state and in the sphere that he operates in, that's long time ago. So and he's a capitalist at its core. He's a capitalist, not driven by finance anymore, because he doesn't need to be, right? He says to Bob Iger, "Fuck your advertising dollars. You heard me. Fuck you. You're gonna hold me hostage with money?" You can't, because he's the richest man in the world. So now, looking at the potential deal that he has to do with government to provide cheap, affordable, fast internet to South Africa, his ROI in terms of what he calls brain cycles per day. How many brain cycles does he need to use up to get this deal in South Africa happen versus the return on his investment of brain cycles? And all these hoops that he has to jump with or through to get this deal signed off. For him, it's ROI negative in terms of brain cycles, because I tried, it would be nice, but if there's so many hoops that I have to jump through and there's so much legislation, and I understand everything that you said. Everything that you said makes logical sense, because you can't come here, extract the funds of people and take it and buy the next Twitter, whatever it is. He asked to buy Coca-Cola back and put the Coke back in Coke.
Yeah, the cocaine back.
The cocaine back in Coke. So I sort of understand where he's coming from. It's like, look, I tried. There's too much legislation here, and it will take too many brain cycles for me to go and unpack this and make sure that everybody's on the same page. I'll rather do this in Equatorial Guinea, or I'll rather do
Zimbabwe,
this
I think just signed recently.
Taiwan or whatever, where I'll rather do 10 smaller countries and make more money ROI positive.
Sure.
and use the time that it will take me to get this deal done to do 10 others. That's I'm not sure that's what he's thinking, but that's how I see it.
One of the things people need to understand is the importance of patriotism. I think Afrikaner nationalism is a good model for that. When the apartheid government came in, many Afrikaners understood the importance of buying Afrikaans. Whether it's supporting Women Danny's coffee shop, whether it's subscribing to Huisgenoot, whether it's going to buy Boerewors rolls when your kids are playing rugby, tithing to the church, because this money is now money we can use to build. When you've lost that as a country, you destroy yourself.
That's what I want to say. We need a synergist, a leader that brings people together as South Africans, not as Afrikaans or Zulu or Sotho, as South Africans. That's what we need.
Which won't happen. There are too many interests, unfortunately, today. And unfortunately, some of the white interests in this country have left, and they've set up office elsewhere in the world, and they prefer getting people to buy into an Naspers that's listed in the Netherlands, an Afkri that's now being run from America, etc. So we've kind of lost that, sadly. But if you are a white South African and you want Starlink here, I support you. I'm with you. Think of the knock-on effect of what Starlink may do to Vodacom, MTN, Cell C, Telkom. Forget black people.
It will close them. It will destroy them.
You won't understand why some of your family members as a white South African are being retrenched. Either in those companies I'm speaking about or ancillary companies, because the law firm is making money from Vodacom. The bank is making money from MTN.
The guy that bought MP200 from me that's servicing the towers that are all over Pretoria, that guy doesn't have the contract.
He doesn't have
anymore.
a car anymore. And you're pissed off. And you're like, oh, fuck the ANC and what. And it's like, but you guys wanted Starlink. And you didn't think of some of the knock-on effects. And it is up to us who have a bit of better knowledge to try and educate people. We need to speak about this BE thing. I think it's a pile of bullshit. And I don't think it's in the best interest of the country. What could be better, and government needs to relook how they work these policies, is, if necessary, tax companies more, and then show us that that money is going to where it's supposed to go. Ensure that local people, black, white, Indian, colored, are all getting jobs at these companies and are being upskilled. But it cannot be that you guys are sending Mutsipe and Cyril and everyone to go and get an equity stake, and we don't know what happens to these monies, because some of us cannot support that. But at the same time, we need South Africans to be the ones to be like, we're fully aware of what's going on. We intentionally will not watch Netflix. It's amazing. We will watch Showmax because it creates jobs for South Africans. So thanks, Netflix. We appreciate you. We love you. But unfortunately, we're tired of creating jobs in America while we're struggling here. Thank you so much, China, for all the textiles that you give to us for so cheap. Oh, it's amazing. But unfortunately, I'm going to pay a bit more for South African-made textiles because it creates jobs. And when that black auntie who gets paid there spends her money at ShopRite, my son, who is a banker that has work with ShopRite, gets a job. And we get to feed all our kids. So we understand the importance of patriotism. We've kind of lost that, sadly.
You must start a country.
Now you want to go into cult. This is a personal one for me. I'm going to make a quick note, and then I'm going to raise this. We are not asking... There are a lot of celebrities in South Africa that have been passing away, including politicians. Pravin Gordhan has passed on. A lot of South Africans are not happy. I don't blame them. I did post, and all I said was, Pravin Gordhan has passed on. I unfortunately don't have good things to say about him, but out of respect for him and his family, I decided to not speak about the negative, but many South Africans did. Many of our celebrities, the ex-wife of DJ Fresh has passed on. A powerful voice in the traditional space, Dr. Bishop Jessica Mbangi, and he passed on. There was a Kwaito artist, Mapaputsi Usandile Ngwenya, that's passed on. Many other people are passing on. Not all of them are old. And I'm just raising this as a bookmark. It's not meant to really go anywhere because it probably won't. We used to ask if people had COVID when they'd passed on. We're not asking that anymore. But we're also not asking if any of these people were jabbed with the vaccine. And no one is tracking any adverse effects, of which there were thick reports given later on by Pfizer and others of the side effects of getting the vaccine. No one is tracking that, and no one cares.
Are you vaccinated?
No, I'm not. And luckily, I didn't even buy a fake certificate. So I know a lot of people did. So someone's going to be like, this guy lied. He is vaccinated. It's here on the system. I fought that for as far as possible. If ever I was forced to vaccinate, there's a chance that I was going to pay a bribe and get a fake one. And if you asked me, I would have lied and been like, no, I got the jab because I was pressured. But the reality is I never jabbed. You're not going to see on any system that I was jabbed for COVID. So I didn't buy a fake anything. I was one of those people that fought, not because I was being stubborn or anti-vax. I'm like Novak Djokovic. Everyone should have a right to jab if they want. But be honest to people about why they're jabbing, the side effects, and if I don't want, allow me. If I end up getting sick and pass on, it's my choice, right? I'm choosing to go to war and die. I'm choosing to say, based on all the information you've given me about how the coronavirus works, I think I've got immunity, or I'm willing to take meds or whatever, but I don't want to take this thing that you're giving me. Allow me. No one is tracking post-vaccine adverse effects, and if any of these people that have passed on were vaccinated, and if that's got an impact at all. Or maybe even if they had COVID at all. We don't speak about that anymore, but it was something that fundamentally shut down the world at some point.
Yeah.
As a bookmark. You speak about building a country, and we spoke about mafias. There are women now who are empowered. We are feminists. I think for the most part I'm a feminist as well, which by definition means means I believe in the equal rights of men and women. If a woman is doing the same job as a man, she must get equal pay. Women should be allowed to thrive in careers. If they want to have children, if they want to abort, they shouldn't have to get permission from a husband or from their father. I'm one of those people today. I spoke with an amazing lady, Usihle Ngokwana, on the Penuel show, and we spoke about feminism, and she's anti-feminist. And there's an amazing Muslim woman, Layla, I forget her surname, Layla K something, on TikTok. She's anti-feminist as well. And both of them echo a similar notion that they feel feminism has caused more wrong or more bad in the world than good. And they explain why. the first wave of feminism, which most of us should support, is this thing that I said now. Equal work, equal pay for women. If women want to do things, if women want to own property and land, top shayela. Second, third wave feminism is where now the aggression came, where women are now bashing men, and why should women do this? And where good feminists started bashing women who chose old school feminine qualities. I want to be at home. I want to raise my kids. I want to ask my husband for permission. No, she's being oppressed. It's like, no, but we've chosen in our family that I make that. No, you're an oppressive man. You're a toxic male. It's patriarchy. And you're like, now you're sounding oppressive. Now you're not giving us choice. What Usihle said and what this lady sort of alluded to is the problem started when we gave women a right to vote. I thought that was so controversial. And what they explained was the reason women didn't vote wasn't because women are stupid and slow, like Bobby. It's because every household had a representative, and the representative would be a man. So on behalf of my wife, on behalf of my kids, I love you, my family. What are your issues? I don't think we get paid well enough as women in work. I'm going to go raise that when we go vote. I'm going to be like, our wives are feeling unsafe. So how are you guaranteeing the safety of our wives? Our kids are not learning at school, and then men would vote in that regard. Later on, women would vote, and then they'd vote for certain things. Many good things. Some of the things I think have destroyed families, unfortunately, in the pursuit of equality. I went and I further interrogated this thought, and my first thought was the reason women fought for rights, the ability to vote, the ability to work, was because men made a huge fuck up of society. If society was functioning well, even today, there are many women who are not feeling this working thing. Women want to be at home. They want to catch up on their soapies. They want to take the kids to school and make lunch. They want to complain. They want to go shopping. And it's like, but you fucked it up. And for black men in this country, they'll blame the British colonial system. We were living nice, farming, we had cattle. These guys came with their money system, and then we were forced to pay a hut tax. We had to go to the mines, and we were taken away from our families and from our land. From there, our women felt alone, sad. And because, sometimes, feel a bit frisky, we'd get busy with the women around the mines in those places. We started having different families elsewhere. Our women being left alone, and because our money is being chowed at taverns, etc., needed work. So then they were given this empowerment where now women can go work. Don't let a man, I'm sure your husband abandoned you and went to Joburg. I can go work now. And our children were left alone. They were taken to the schools. They told, you can be like dad and work in a mine. You can be like mom and work in a factory. So this serves the system. But this applies to white people as well, where some of the men have failed because where a man earns well, the woman is given the choice of pursuing a career or not. The second thing is, even if he earns well, is he committed to the family? Because he's rich, but he's got all these little girls around, little tux girls that he visits on weekends, instead of focusing on the family. Men fucked it up. And when I went down that path, I realized there are many good, strong leaders. There are many bad ones, of course, but there are many good, strong leaders in society. And part of the reason we have a society that's fucked up, and this is my opinion, so people must bash me, is I think we gave too much freedom to men initially when they weren't ready, when they hadn't proven competence in running a family and making the right decisions. Because by the time the women march, by the time we have, I think Abu Charlotte Makley, if I'm not mistaken, marching to the union buildings for equal rights, the solution should have been, what's wrong? Our men are falling short. Let's go fix the men. Not, since men are fucking up, let's give you guys the same freedom and rights. Because the women were also not competent and trained. And what happened when you gave the woman that is then the fights with the family started. Which is good for the system, right? Me and Elsie have a kid. I cheat because I like girls from Takis. She hates me. She moves out. She buys another house. I have a house. Now the banks are making money. Our kids now have to be shuttled. That's more money. Because when mom and dad don't live together, that's extra properties, extra transport, extra everything, versus living in one house with one salary where you don't have to sell more cars if we drive one car. I drop my woman off at work, I pick her up. don't you want to have your own car and drive? You're right. Actually, I do want my own. Then you get to. So capitalism works when the families are split. Now, because our kid is somewhere else, they also need a car and they need a property. The point of this whole story was this. We've had good, strong leaders. And I do think as a society, we need to do introspection in what freedom has done to destroy our families. Freedom is meant to be a great thing. But freedom is, and democracy is, and human rights are your 14-year-old daughter being like, I've got rights. I can go wherever I want. And if you say no, you're abusing me. I can go to the police and the government who have more authority than you over me, your child, and I can do what I want. Freedom and rights is a law in this country where a 12-year-old girl can choose to have sex. She's allowed per the law, and she can abort a child without ever telling you, without getting your consent. She can walk into a clinic, speak to a nurse and be like, I'm pregnant, I want to get rid of this child. And you as the parent of this child that's meant to take care of them, you don't ever need to be informed. Freedom is your wife that you married, that you love, that you're committed to, deciding to, it's my body, I have agency. If I want to sleep with another man, who are you? You men have been sleeping with whoever you want. You can't get angry. You can't discipline her. Now we can speak physical violence or silent treatment or whatever. You're not allowed to discipline her. That is abuse. And abuse is not just physical, it's emotional, it's psychological. She can go and divorce you and take half your stuff. And it's like, did he ever hit you? No. What happened? Well, he was not giving me the attention I wanted. He was sleeping with girls, so I felt I should do the same. And then he financially abused me. He emotionally abused me. He made me feel less of a woman. And she walks away with freedom and rights. And there are communities that still exist. Some staunch Christian, including African Christian communities in this country, Shembe, ZCC. The Muslim community in this country is still by and large very strict. They have limited freedoms, including your pop little joke that left me speechless. They do not promote homosexuality. It's not in the Quran. And they're like, look, we're fine with people doing whatever they want. But you cannot say you follow the Quran and Allah and follow in the guidance of Prophet Muhammad. We unfortunately cannot accept you. Your application has been denied or your membership has been cancelled. It is our choice. So limited freedoms. I'd like to think the Jewish community as well. So you see these communities where it looks like the women are oppressed. They covered. The Muslim women, I apologize to my Muslim friends, they dressed in these ninja where you only see the eyes. But they cover themselves and they explain it in Islam that your woman is sacred. Her beauty is for the enjoyment of her husband. And it's something she chooses. And the husband is fine with that because the husband is also not wearing bum shorts and twerking in the streets. He's also covered. It may not be his whole face like the woman, but his beauty is also not being enjoyed in the streets. And the children go to madrasa and. We need to have a serious introspection and ask ourselves about at least the stronger leaders and the good leaders in society to be like, should we have a conversation around freedom? We've always assumed that it's good. But can we say that big parts of freedom are bad and we need to start limiting them? Human rights. We've got a sovereign nation. We have got people that have come into this country, committed crimes by being here, engaged in employment or business illegally, some of them committing real crimes. It's meant to be simple. I find you, you're undocumented, you're not from here. We find out where you're from, we send you. And then you've got NGOs that come in and say, but this is a violation of human rights. And you're like, I don't understand because they've committed crimes, yes, but human rights. I buy a car from Bobby, I don't pay, it's meant to be repossessed. I'm like, I go to the courts, I try to get some order to be like, I need this car, my family needs it. What about my rights? We have a right to get around. And they're like, Bobby, can you maybe let him keep the car for him? And you're like, no ways. That doesn't make sense. I move into a property, I don't pay rent. You can't just evict me. Human rights says you need to try and find a way to give me another place of accommodation before you kick me out, even if I'm not paying rent.
But that's where the line is crossed between human rights and victimhood mentality. I want to just, because I love the marriage and the position each person holds in the family conversation. So my opinion is this, maybe we can close off with this. Men and women are scared to have an upfront conversation before they get married?
We know why.
Okay.
But we know why.
Why?
Do we don't know why?
I know why.
Okay.
So men and women are scared to have a conversation before they get married because you're afraid that if you speak your truth, that person might not like what you have to say, number one, and might not want to continue the relationship and grow into a marriage. You have people that are married for 4 years, and then husband says, okay, I'm ready for a kid now. And the wife says, I don't want kids.
My career is about to shoot.
What do you mean you don't want kids? No, I never wanted kids.
Boom.
But why did we get married? Because you told me you love me.
Yeah.
That's why I got married.
100%.
But marriage is to have a family and have children and raise kids. No, I don't want a kid. So 4 years of your life, you've been married to a person, and that person genuinely doesn't want to have children. And you genuinely want to have children. So I think very important, if you're not going to have an open, honest conversation with that person, you will literally ruin both your lives.
Yes.
Literally. Because marrying the person that you do can make or break you. We've heard it a million times. Number one. Number two, when I got married to my wife, strong career woman, very ambitious, very driven, very independent in a way that she earns a big salary. She's worked at a company her butt off for 17 years. Last night I was in bed, and at 10:15 I walked to her office, which is a bedroom next to our bedroom, and I said to her, "Hey, Owen." She says, 15 minutes. Because she was on a Zoom call with her boss at 10:15. She says, 15 minutes. So at 10:30 she came. So she works really hard. But the conversation was straightforward. She said to me before we got married, I don't ever want to end up in a situation where I'm entirely financially dependent on you, and you go and get a Takis girl.
Yeah. It's because men are fucked up,
That you like because I'm 55 years old one day, and that girl is 22 years old, and you still got good testosterone, and you want to go and pump this chick. I'm like, what are you telling me? She says that's a real fear.
Yeah.
So
it's
now
a very valid fear.
Yeah, very valid. So I say, I understand. So how do I mitigate your risk? Because it's a risk, all a risk. Believing in God is a risk. Not believing in God is a risk.
Yeah.
Everything is. So how do I mitigate the risk? Well, I would like you to mitigate it this way. Boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
I'm like, fuck, she's thought about this. She wants this structure in place so that if I go and pump a 21-year-old chick from Takis in my 50s, she doesn't need to stay with me financially, because that's the worst, in my opinion, that's the worst crime to commit against a woman outside of, harming her body, is emotionally and financially controlling her and her becoming a slave.
Yeah.
And because we've had that conversation before we got married, I'm acutely aware of her fear.
Sure.
And she is of my fear. So now there's boundaries.
Yeah.
And because there's boundaries, there can be space for a happy marriage.
Yeah.
Not that it can't fuck out because of some other stuff that we haven't discussed. But the main stuff, the kids, that discussion has been had. If it's God's will, we'll have children.
Sure.
Do we both want children? Yes. Do we have children now? No. God willing, we will.
Yeah.
Okay. Having said that, on finances.
Money.
How do you want to structure our marriage? Well, I want it this way. I'm like, fuck, I don't want it that way. I want it this way. She said, this is how I want it. I'm like, geez.
Compromise.
I'll meet you halfway.
Yeah.
She says, on this, I'm not meeting you anyway. This is what I want. So I think young people, old people are scared to have that conversation up front because they're scared of losing the person. But the worst thing that you can do is go into a marriage with someone and end up being miserable for the rest of your life. That's a lot worse than losing that person and potentially finding the right person or the right partner for you long term, because it's an infinite game, right? It's still death do us apart.
Used to be.
Well, used to be, yeah.
So this is a conversation you can have with intelligent, mature people. In my opinion, most human beings are stupid. They're just dumb. So even the idea of I'm scared of it, they're not even thinking that far. With the freedoms we have, part of the problem is entry and exit into relationships is free now. I can meet a girl I like on a Friday, We go home, she's my girl. I can be with her for a week and break up with her. She's no longer my girl. Back in the day, I see a girl I like. My whole family has to go and meet her family and ask for permission for me and this girl to get to know each other. And the only reason we're getting to know each other is to get married. And that's the only way I'll ever have sex with her. And after we get married, we're never leaving. Today, everything is easy. Because we can have these conversations because we're a bit smarter, that's where I go back to the good, strong leaders, which was meant to be the church. It's meant to be politicians. It's meant to be whatever type of celebrities in the media are leading. But all of those people have there are pastors who are divorced. There are politicians who are divorced. There are celebrities who have beaten up their women. So the people that are meant to lead this stuff have failed. So we need to have a conversation as society, at least those of us who are willing to almost be the strict fathers on everyone else and create an Islamic institution, our own country, whatever, to say, this is how we function here. And if you don't want it, it's fine. Go live with the rest of the world.
I want to disagree with you.
Go for it.
So everybody's being programmed. And if you're a weak parent and you allow the celebrity that beats up their woman to program you, your kids.
Yeah.
If you're, let me start again. Everyone is being programmed.
Correct.
And if you're a weak parent and you allow society, for example, by the guy that beats up his wife, comes on and says sorry to program your children, then not only is it okay for them to be fuck-ups, because you're a fuck-up.
Yes.
They have to be that. Because then you have people that program their own family in a different way that will rule those fuck-ups. And that's the way life works. It works that way in nature as well. So what I'm saying is, if you, I say this in my training in the morning. Morning, guys, every 2-3 months I say it. My job here is to program you mentally to think a certain way, to act a certain way, to conduct yourself a certain way, while I've got you under my care as your leader and your trainer in sales, so that I can grant you the benefits that this industry has granted me because somebody programmed me this way.
Yeah.
Whether it's right or wrong for you is your decision. But while you're here, I would like you to communicate on WhatsApp a certain way, address a person a certain way, greet someone a certain way, speak to them a certain way, handle the objection in a certain way, and have certain intentions. I'm programming you.
Yeah.
As cadets, that's how I program them. When they mature as salespeople, different set of programming, and different set of programming for Eddie, who drives an M4 and wears Louis Vuitton shoes. But I'm constantly programming him.
Sure.
So
what are you disagreeing with?
I'm not disagreeing with. I think it's absolutely fair the way things.
You said you disagree.
No, I think it's fair that if you're a weak leader or a weak parent,
Yes.
and you allow society to program your family and your kids, then they should fail.
So one of the issues we have in society, which I explain to people, is not all old people are adults. Which is why even the idea of democracy and allowing anyone over 18 to vote is so dangerous. And a lot of these adults, and they say it, they show us that they want parenting. It's the reason why people go to church. Because I'm not good enough on my own to read a Bible with my family. We believe there's someone that's better, so we go there. It's the reason why we go to a therapist. There's somewhere where we're failing to solve this thing and we'd like an authority figure. It's the reason why we're meant to have, let's say, politicians and lawmakers, people that we feel this is beyond us, therefore someone else. And my plea is for people like yourself to get louder. And I'm going back to freedom, because then people start speaking about being a tyrant and a dictator. The most successful families I know are not run on democracy and are not run with freedom.
Dictatorship.
It's
brother.
dictatorship, hopefully with a good dictator. But my dad was strict. He'd shout at us if we didn't do homework. He'd beat us up if we were disrespectful. He always made sure that we respected our sisters, whatever. And this is why I'm the man I am today. If I just followed the script, or if my father was not like that, I would be like this. Because as you correctly put it, we live in a society where social media, politicians, TV is priming everyone, including your really amazing wife, everywhere she goes. And this is why it's so important, because your home might be intact. But when your children and your wife go into society, they're interacting with everyone else who's telling them, your husband's a tyrant, he's a dictator, but you have rights. Does your father really say that? No, that's child abuse. And your child is listening to this noise. And if we keep quiet, the cancer carries on spreading, versus some of us being like, we want to push back. It's not popular, it's not cool, but we're almost saying we'd like less freedom and we'd like it like this. And whoever can do it like this and prove to us the outcomes, because we will fight if it's adverse. We want whoever's bullying us and taking our freedoms to show us that these are nuclear families. Mom and dad and the kids are here. The kids are doing well at school. This family is doing well economically. You call them oppressed, you call them what? Like the Muslims. Oh, their women are oppressed. Okay, let's go with that narrative. Their women are at home with their husbands. Their husbands come home. The women get to be there with their kids. Their kids are doing brilliantly academically. Their husbands are killing it in business. Have you heard the women complain? No, but I'm sure. Have you heard them complain? Have you? Well, it's because they're oppressed. So according to who?
Yeah, it's your
Because
lens.
look at you. You're free. Where's your husband? Where are your kids?
Takis.
Where?
Takis, brother. But it's
So-
a lens, right? And I've got some other layers to add on to it. As a dictator,
Yeah.
I grew up in an Eastern European dictatorship type of environment, which I'm very blessed that I did. Dad woke up at 4 o'clock in the morning and worked his butt off for decades,
Yeah.
showing me what an example of a family leader is. Mom took care of us. She didn't work.
Mm.
She carted us around. She made food for us. She made sure that we were taken care of, and Dad provided. Okay. I've never ever seen my mom unhappy because she has to ask permission to buy something for the house.
Yeah.
That's how it is. That's normal. Okay?
Is it also a function of the women around her were similar?
Yes,
Okay,
100%.
okay.
100%. So now, Dad is an expert in these areas, and in the areas where he's not an expert, he's not going to send me to someone that's not an expert in that area.
Yeah.
Meaning, so when it comes to faith, when I've got a question about faith, he says, let's phone Yonko.
Mm.
Yonko is our priest. Yonko, what do you think of this? Why are you asking me? And then he'll unpack it, because his temperature is very high in faith.
Yeah.
When it comes to business,
Mm.
perhaps he's not the person to ask on making money and not being shrewd, but being aggressive in business. He's not at a high temperature on that.
Yeah.
Then Dad will point me in this direction. Speak
Sure.
to this person. So this person's temperature is very high there. But Dad, this guy's divorced.
Mm.
And he's like, I know. For marriage,
Don't go to that guy.
Like, stay away.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you'll get divorced. But when it comes to monetary, financial, kill it in the workplace,
Yeah.
he's your guy.
Yeah.
Spiritual, faith, he's your guy.
Yeah.
When it comes to family dynamics, I'm your guy
Yeah.
because I'm the example. So I think a strong leader needs to also understand that you can't be strong in all areas all the
100%.
time. We
But
all
that's
human.
leadership in itself, what your dad's doing, right?
100%.
That's what I'm saying. When you've got a strong leader, they can say, go there, because they know it's best.
It's best. And again, programming your family in that way from very young
Yeah.
makes them question. And if you question, you win. So it's not because Cardi B or Taylor Swift or whoever the fuck says something, it's true because, listen, they've got 100 million followers on
Yeah.
Instagram. Fuck
Yeah.
you. You know, does that person's life represent what I want my life to end up being? No. Well, then I won't listen to them. When it comes to killing it in the music industry, that's
Sure.
your person. How did you do it? Track, if you can't get access to them, track the first song. Where did it actually start going up? 100%. But when it comes to marriage, don't go seek counsel from someone that's divorced twice.
Yeah.
When it comes to money, don't go and seek counsel from someone that's fucking broke. And when it comes to running a strong, successful household, seek counsel from someone whose grandkids want to be with them.
Yeah.
But that person is potentially not the best person when it comes to faith or when it comes to selling or whatever the area in life
Yeah.
it is. Because that's what makes us creatures of how do I put it? We like to be around each other because
Yeah.
we can learn from each other, right? You're very strong in a certain area. How do you do that? I'm very strong in a certain area, and we can have a value
Yeah.
exchange. So if you allow retards and idiots to program your kids and they end up being retards and idiots, then job well done on
To
them.
close off your point and this point, which is the last thing I want to say, what you raised brought up like a concern in my head. Because if you're trying to live a full rounded life and you're getting advice from so many different people and all of them have shortcomings somewhere, there needs to be a trade-off. So if you're trying to become successful in business and all the successful business people you're meeting have got broken families, that might at some point influence you. So my closing point is going to be prioritize or draft a list of priorities for what's most important for you.
Of course, who do you want to be?
And be willing to lose some of the things. So you can listen to the business advice, but understand the reason I'll never be as rich as that guy is because I have a family. The reason my faith will never be as strong as whoever, even though I'm trying, is because unfortunately, my pastor, my rabbi, my imam, whoever, they live like this and there are parts of my life where I am not that. So I'm happy with passing 60% here, 40% in business. But because my family is most important, I'm striving for 90% here. And I can't do 100 because I want to make it in business because of other parts as well.
100%. The guy behind you, Michael Jordan, the Last Dance is one of my favorite series I've ever watched. I don't know if you've had the opportunity to
Watched
watch
a little bit. Vince said Chimp Empire. I must check out as well.
Yeah. But
Chimp Empire and The Last Dance. I must go check again.
The Last Dance just shows you that a champion, the
Yeah.
greatest of all time, and we don't have. I played basketball in high school, but height restrictions.
We must bring a BEE for short people.
Yeah,
Be like, previously disadvantaged, Baba. We want shorter hoops for us.
Even me, I want to dunk. But a champion is, you can actually see how broken this person actually is.
Mm.
Everything outside of doing that is fucked.
It's fucked up.
Everything. Relationships, everything. Gambling, fucked. Because everything in his life goes to that.
Yeah.
So
Michael Jackson's another good example.
Yes.
But
yes.
it goes to that priorities.
But he's still alive, right? Everyone says he's still walking.
Who's alive?
Michael
Kevin
Jackson.
Watson?
No,
Sorry?
MJ.
Oh.
Still alive.
Marcus Just. Oh, close. Marcus Just, Michael Jackson, MJ.
Michael Jackson's alive, man.
Is it?
Like Hitler, they're both chilling. Where in
Argentina is the
yeah.
place, I've heard.
Yeah, that's the place to be. Yeah.
Jeez. No, that's all I have to say. I think from my side, there is 90 billion rand in unclaimed benefits somewhere out there, which is due to about 8 million people.
Do short people get benefits? Can I apply for some?
Must apply to the Paralympics. Maybe they'll let you in. 90
Sorry.
billion rand for 8 million people. So if ever you've lost a loved one in your life, let's just say a loved one, or maybe if you've ever left a job somewhere or you were retrenched, at some point in your life, please go and research. Go to everyone. Sanlam, Old Mutual, Alexander Forbes, go to the GEPF, PIC, go to the Labor Department, go to all these places if you ever have time. And just let them input your ID or ask about certain people just to cross it off, because there might be some money due for you. And this is just me caring about you. Let's hope our politicians and their friends haven't chowed, but there's 90 billion rand out there for 8 million South Africans that has been unclaimed. And it's chilling. And maybe
That's
there's
a lot
like
of money.
someone who left you as a beneficiary somewhere, and there's money waiting for you.
Thank you. I really enjoyed this episode.
Unapologetic.
Boom.